Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne, and it is a chilly day out here. You know, we've had a couple really nice days, and then it just suddenly it turned cold out here. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with the weather. But I wanted to come out and give you my porch story, and this one is called "How I Met My Husband." Now, many of you have already heard this story before, but since I have so many new people and now I'm on a YouTube channel as well, I thought I would share the story again. So many years ago, I was living my life in California, and I had a wonderful life, and I was living my best life, being the best single person I knew how to be, and enjoying every moment of it. And I had my life together, so it wasn't like I didn't have my life together. I had my life very much together. And so I decided that I was going to go to the gym one morning. But when I woke up that morning, I knew that I was going to meet my husband. I could feel the presence of this man around me. I always say it was the Holy Spirit telling me that my husband was coming into my life. And I believe that our souls, our spirit, it can wrap around so much more than just our body. It can be it can extend out to the people that are necessary, and we're a part of their life. And I believe that my husband was entering into my life at that point, and even though I hadn't yet met him. And so I went to the gym that morning, and as I was driving down the road, I just felt this overwhelming presence of my husband, and I looked around, and there was no husband, people walking down the street with baby carriages and strollers and all that, and it was, of course, no husband. And I got to the gym, and there were men there, but I knew it wasn't any of them, and it was so overpowering. I kept my head down while I was riding the stationary bicycle. I then went over to Del Taco, and I remember I got some burritos and to take home. And while I was waiting for them to be made, there were several really good-looking guys that came in, but I knew it wasn't any of them. And I could just feel this overwhelming presence. And I thought, you know what, I must be crazy. And so that evening, I was going into work, and I had a date after work. And I knew it wasn't my date that I was going to marry, because I wasn't, he wasn't marriage material, let's put it that way. And so I just wasn't interested in marrying him, I should say that. And so I went to my work, and as I was getting ready to leave, in walks the most handsome man I'd ever seen. And I just knew that was him. I knew right away, instinctively, it was him. And somehow he ended up with my number. We only talked just a moment. He ended up with my number, and his plane had broken down. And so he walked in. And he was from a different state, a different part of the country, a completely different part of the country. And he was traveling to someplace else in the world, and he wasn't even supposed to be there, but his plane broke down. And so anyhow, I went out on my date that night, and then the next morning, this man, who was later to be my husband, called me at 7 o'clock, and he said, I just want to tell you this, you're going to be my wife. And I said, I know, but call me back in 3 hours when I'm awake. And so lo and behold, he did. He called me back in 3 hours when I was awake, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked some more. And we had a couple dates between the next 3 days, and it was before Christmas. And then then his plane was better. It was all better. And then they fixed it, and then he left. And I was just, he wrote me letters. This is back before email. And he wrote me letter after letter, and I wrote him letter after letter. And he said, well, I'm coming back in a month, and we're going to spend 3 weeks together on vacation. And I didn't really want to do that because I really didn't know him. But I consented to it, and we did. And we traveled. He rented a car, and we traveled all over, and it was just amazing. And we went to Death Valley, Las Vegas, Northern California, San Diego, Hotel del Coronado, and so many other places. It was just a wonderful time. And he asked me to, be his wife. So lo and behold, he went back to his home, and I stayed, and I just so missed him. And I got on a plane 2 weeks later and flew to a place I'd never been, to a man I hardly knew, but I just knew it was right. And that was nearly 30 years ago. And it was just something told me that this was right for my life. And so I did. And it was the best decision I ever made. 3 children later, living all over the world. and almost 30 years together. And it's been wonderful. So that's how I met my husband. That's my porch story for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. And so from my porch story to yours, from my chilly day to yours, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.